Did you know that, during its time of glory, the Roman navy not only dominated the waters of the Mediterranean but also shaped the destiny of the Roman Empire? The impact of the Roman navy went far beyond naval battles, as it was essential for the expansion and maintenance of the vast territory under Roman control. From the earliest territorial conquests, Rome realized that controlling the seas was as crucial as controlling the land. The ability to navigate and dominate maritime routes allowed the legions to be quickly deployed, facilitating the invasion and pacification of new regions. This enabled the empire to expand beyond the Italian peninsula, conquering lands along the Mediterranean, North Africa, Asia Minor, and Western Europe. In this documentary, we will dive deep into this fascinating history, exploring its humble origins, remarkable innovations, and how, despite its decline, its legacy continues to influence modern navigation. Get ready for a journey across the seas of antiquity that you will never forget. The origins of the Roman navy date back to a time when Rome was still a modest city-state located on the banks of the Tiber River. During this period, Roman ships were extremely simple, primarily designed for basic coastal activities. These early boats were mainly used for fishing, transporting goods, and moving along rivers and the nearby coast. In a scenario where Rome had not yet ventured beyond the borders of the Italian peninsula, the need for a structured and offensive navy was practically non-existent. As Rome began to grow in power and influence, the situation changed. Population growth and territorial expansion created an urgent demand for a more efficient maritime transportation and defense system. The security of trade routes, for example, became a central concern as commerce with other cities and coastal colonies became vital for the city's growth. Control of coastal waters was not only a matter of economic convenience but also of survival, as an interruption in the flow of goods could lead to shortages, weakening the city. Another factor that drove the formation of a more organized navy was the increasing contact with other peoples, especially the Greek city-states of southern Italy and Sicily, which already had more developed fleets and naval experience. The Romans quickly realized that to protect themselves from external threats and position themselves as a regional power, it was crucial to master control of the sea. This realization led the city to take the first steps toward creating a more coordinated naval force. This new military and commercial need culminated in the construction of larger and more complex ships. The first Roman warships began to be inspired by the fleets of the peoples with whom Rome had contact, such as the Etruscans and Greeks. They introduced the construction of triremes and quadriremes, vessels powered by rowers and designed both for troop transport and naval combat. However, even with this adaptation, Rome was still inexperienced in naval battles at the beginning, which would become evident in its early maritime confrontations, such as during the Punic Wars against Carthage. The Punic Wars, fought between Rome and Carthage from 264 to 146 BC, marked a turning point in the history of the Roman navy. Until then, Rome had focused its military efforts primarily on land campaigns, where its legions demonstrated unparalleled skill and discipline. However, when faced with Carthage, a dominant maritime power, Rome was forced to confront an enemy whose naval forces were far superior. Carthage had one of the most powerful and experienced fleets in the Mediterranean, with an established naval tradition and centuries of control over vital trade routes. For Rome, it was impossible to triumph over Carthage without gaining control of the sea. The initial confrontation at sea was disastrous for the Romans, who were still developing their naval capabilities. However, Rome's determination not to be outmatched spurred a rapid and decisive transformation. The need to surpass the Carthaginians, who were far more experienced in naval warfare, led the Roman Republic to invest heavily in the construction of warships and the recruitment of sailors. Rome not only quickly expanded its fleet but also introduced technological and tactical innovations that would revolutionize naval combat. Shipbuilding became a strategic priority. According to historical accounts, the Romans, with little experience in advanced naval engineering, captured a wrecked Carthaginian ship and used it as a model to quickly replicate dozens of new ships. These new triremes and quinquiremes, equipped with rows of oarsmen and powerful bronze rams to smash enemy ships, became the backbone of the new Roman navy. But even with an expanded fleet, the Romans knew they could hardly outmatch Carthaginian skill in navigation and maneuvering on the open sea. It was in this context that the Romans introduced one of the most famous innovations in ancient naval history, the corvus, or crow. This device was essentially a movable bridge with a hook at the end, which could be lowered onto an enemy ship. The tactic was relatively simple but devastatingly effective. When an enemy ship approached, the corvus would be lowered and attached to the opposing vessel, locking the two ships together. This allowed Roman legionaries to cross the bridge and engage the enemy sailors and soldiers in direct combat, where their superior discipline and training in formation fighting with swords, spears, and shields prevailed. This style of battle greatly favored the Romans, who treated every naval engagement as an extension of land warfare, in which they excelled. By introducing this tactic, Rome leveled the playing field, compensating for its lack of naval experience with its superior hand-to-hand combat skills. This completely changed the course of naval battles. Rome's victory at the Battle of Mylae in 260 BC, thanks to the use of the corvus, was a sign that Rome was adapting and learning quickly. With this new approach, Rome began to dominate the Western Mediterranean, winning decisive battles such as the Battle of the Aegates Islands in 241 BC, which ended the First Punic War. Control of the sea allowed Rome to isolate Carthage, cutting off its supply routes and weakening its position. After Carthage's decisive defeat in the Punic Wars, Rome consolidated itself as the new dominant power in the Mediterranean. However, Roman expansion was not limited to the west. With the weakening of its main rival, Rome turned its attention to the east, where the Seleucid Empire and other Hellenistic powers still exerted considerable influence. Control of maritime routes and the strengthening of the Roman navy were vital for ensuring territorial expansion and trade, as well as protecting the growing empire from external threats. Thus, Rome entered a new phase of conflicts and alliances in the eastern Mediterranean, further reinforcing its naval dominance. The first significant confrontations in the east occurred during the Macedonian Wars and later in the war against the Seleucid Empire, led by Antiochus III. These conflicts were a natural continuation of Rome's expansionist policy, which, after conquering Greece and subjugating the Macedonians, saw the east as a new frontier to be controlled. The Mediterranean, which had previously been under the influence of various local powers, came to be viewed by the Romans as our sea. The Roman navy, having already proven its worth in the wars against Carthage, became an essential tool for projecting Roman power over this vast region. During the war with Antiochus III in the 190s BC, the Roman navy played a vital role. The Battle of Myonessus in 190 BC was one of the largest naval battles of the time, where the Roman fleet, under the command of Gaius Livius and Eumenes II of Pergamum, defeated the powerful Seleucid navy. This victory was crucial in securing control over the Aegean Sea and allowed Rome to invade and dominate Asia Minor, forcing Antiochus to retreat inland. Although Roman land forces always played a prominent role in conquests, the naval victory at Myonessus demonstrated that the Roman navy had become a versatile and essential force for Rome's military campaigns. With the victory over the Seleucids and the weakening of the Hellenistic powers, Rome consolidated its naval dominance in the eastern Mediterranean. This not only ensured the security of vital trade routes for the empire, but also allowed Rome to establish a series of strategic naval bases along the coast. Coastal cities, ports, and important islands such as Rhodes and Delos became naval strongholds, ensuring that Rome could monitor and control maritime traffic throughout the region. The establishment of these naval bases allowed Rome to project its power effectively, responding swiftly to threats and ensuring the safe movement of its legions between the eastern provinces. These naval bases also played a fundamental role in maintaining the Roman peace, or Pax Romana. From these outposts, Rome was able to suppress pirate activities that had historically plagued the Mediterranean. During the 2nd and 1st centuries BC, piracy in the eastern Mediterranean was a constant threat to trade routes and communications between the provinces. With its expanded and strengthened navy, Rome launched effective campaigns to eradicate the pirates and establish lasting peace in the region. The Mediterranean became a safe sea for trade and transport, which fostered economic growth and prosperity throughout the empire. Beyond securing trade, Roman naval dominance enabled greater integration of the eastern provinces into the empire. The Mediterranean became the main route of communication between Rome and its provinces, facilitating the movement of troops, resources, and information quickly and efficiently. The establishment of ports and naval fortresses ensured that the Roman Navy had access to supplies and repairs, making it a force always ready to respond to external or internal threats. This was crucial for controlling the empire's vast borders and for projecting Roman power into the most distant areas. Although Rome's primary focus had always been its legions and land warfare, naval victories and the strengthening of the navy were essential to securing the empire's stability and expansion. Control of the Mediterranean allowed Rome to create a network of secure and highly efficient maritime routes, promoting communication and trade between various parts of the empire. Furthermore, naval dominance provided a new dimension to Roman military strategy, allowing Rome to rapidly transport troops and resources to any part of the empire and maintain order in its vast provinces. With the expansion of naval bases and the strengthening of its navy, Rome was able to ensure its hegemony over the Mediterranean for centuries, shaping the region's history and transforming the Mediterranean into an uncontested Roman sea. As a result, the importance of the Roman navy began to decline. The absence of major external threats after the fall of Carthage and the subjugation of Hellenistic powers in the east gave the Romans a false sense of security. Without significant naval rivals, the navy came to be seen as a secondary force compared to the powerful land legions, which had always been Rome's pride. This devaluation of the navy, however, proved to be a critical mistake in the following centuries, especially in the face of growing piracy and internal conflicts that shook the structure of the empire. During the 1st century BC, political instability within Rome began to erode the effectiveness and prestige of the Roman navy. Conflicts between figures such as Julius Caesar and Pompey brought civil war to the heart of the Republic, shifting the focus of the Senate and military commanders to land power struggles. Pompey, who initially controlled the Roman fleet during the civil war against Caesar, had amassed vast naval resources. However, these ships and the navy's organization were often diverted to support land campaigns or secure the loyalty of territories, contributing to the declining attention to broader naval issues. The navy, once a strategic force, became a pawn in the disputes between political factions. As the empire increasingly focused on its internal conflicts, Rome's ability to address external naval threats began to deteriorate. One of the most serious problems that arose during this period was the rise of piracy, especially in the eastern Mediterranean, where pirate bands exploited Rome's naval weakness to attack trade routes and coastal cities. Piracy became so endemic that it directly threatened Rome's grain supply, an alarming situation for the capital, which relied on vast shipments from its provinces, particularly Egypt. The inability to deal with piracy exposed the growing weaknesses of the navy. Instead of being an effective deterrent force, the Roman fleet seemed powerless in the face of constant attacks, leaving trade routes and ports vulnerable. This was the result not only of the neglect in maintaining the navy but also of the growing complexity of naval operations, which required proper organization, training, and equipment, something that Rome, amidst its internal disputes, did not prioritize. One of the most notorious episodes of this naval crisis was the proliferation of the Cilician pirates, who attacked merchant ships and kidnapped prominent Roman citizens. The situation reached a critical point in 67 BC when the pirates began operating near Italy's own waters. The demoralization of the Roman navy and the lack of unified leadership allowed these pirates to attack with impunity. The threat became so severe that the Roman Senate was forced to grant extraordinary powers to Pompey to address the crisis. With vast resources at his disposal, Pompey launched a massive campaign against the pirates, known as the Pirate War, temporarily restoring order to the Mediterranean waters. In a matter of months, he managed to eradicate most of the piracy, once again ensuring the safety of the trade routes. However, the fact that the situation had escalated to such a point revealed just how weakened the Roman navy had become. Rome, which had once dominated the seas with a powerful and innovative navy, now found itself struggling to maintain control over its own naval territory. Moreover, the civil conflicts between Caesar and Pompey not only diverted resources from the navy but also fragmented it, as both sides fought for control of fleets and naval routes. By the time Julius Caesar finally defeated Pompey and consolidated his power, the navy had been severely neglected and weakened. The lack of continuous leadership and the absence of major naval threats after the fall of Rome's rivals contributed to a certain complacency regarding the fleet's maintenance. The period of decline for the Roman navy, during the end of the Republic and the beginning of the Principate, marked a significant transition in how Rome viewed naval power. Although it had been crucial for early conquests and for maintaining the Pax Romana along the maritime routes, the navy increasingly came to be seen as a force complementary to the legions, rather than a vital line of defense. Only in moments of crisis, such as the Pirate War, was Rome forced to reassess its reliance on naval control. This decline marked the beginning of a series of problems for the empire, which, in the following centuries, would face new naval threats and eventually lose gradual control over the Mediterranean as external forces, such as the Vandals and Goths, began attacking the coasts and trade routes once dominated by the Romans. However, starting in 27 BC, under the rule of Augustus, the Roman navy underwent a significant transformation that reflected the need to adapt to the new realities of the empire and the growing importance of naval control. As Augustus consolidated his power and established the Principate, he understood that a strong and well-structured navy was essential not only for defense but also for maintaining peace and trade in the Mediterranean. Thus, he promoted a restructuring of the navy that allowed for greater integration between naval and land forces, making it a fundamental part of the Roman military machine. Just as the Roman navy needed strategic planning to dominate the seas, we also count on your support to continue bringing quality content. If you're enjoying this video, consider leaving a like here. Your gesture helps strengthen our community and ensures that more people can access the stories that shape the world. One of the most notable changes in the Navy structure was the division of fleets into distinct classes, each with specific functions. This new organization allowed for quicker and more efficient mobilization, providing the necessary flexibility to respond to immediate threats, whether from pirates, rebellions, or conflicts with rival powers. The Navy was divided into main fleets, each assigned to protect different regions of the empire, such as the Mediterranean Sea, the Adriatic Sea, and the coasts of Gaul and Hispania. This not only improved operational efficiency, but also ensured that naval resources were better distributed, enabling a coordinated response to any situation. Additionally, this new organizational structure helped stabilize the Roman navy at a time when political and military stability was critical to the empire's success. The fleets, now under the command of experienced admirals, could be mobilized quickly in response to a variety of situations, from maritime invasions to the protection of trade routes. Naval leaders, who were often veterans of land campaigns, brought their experience to the navy, fostering a culture of discipline and innovation. This integrated approach ensured that the navy was not merely an appendage of the army, but an autonomous force capable of acting independently when necessary. The reorganization of the Roman navy under Augustus also had a significant impact on the construction and maintenance of ports and naval facilities. Recognizing the importance of robust infrastructure, he promoted the construction of new ports and the modernization of existing ones, which not only improved naval logistics but also facilitated trade and troop transport. These ports became strategic points for ship supply and repair, allowing the navy to operate efficiently over a vast geographical area. The reforms in naval facilities and the construction of new ships further reinforced Rome's naval presence in the Mediterranean, ensuring the continuity of maritime dominance. The impact of the organizational changes in the Roman navy under Augustus lasted for centuries. This new structure not only provided Rome with an agile response to threats and challenges, but also helped establish a naval tradition that would continue to evolve throughout the empire's history. During the centuries of Pax Romana, the navy became a symbol of Roman power and control in the Mediterranean, ensuring the protection of trade routes and the security of maritime borders. The restructuring under Augustus allowed the Roman navy to become a more cohesive and efficient force, integrated into the broader military effort of the empire. This organization remained relatively stable over the years, adapting as necessary but always maintaining the principles of rapid mobilization and coordinated response. Rome's ability to project power at sea and protect its coasts and commercial interests became a distinctive feature of its rule, contributing to the prosperity and stability of the empire. As time progressed, this structure also paved the way for future innovations and adaptations in naval tactics, which would become crucial in the empire's struggle for survival against new challenges. The structure and organization of the Roman Navy were fundamental to its success and effectiveness in naval operations. Each vessel played a specific role within the fleet, and the composition of the crew was carefully planned to maximize maneuverability and combat power. Among the most notable ships were the triremes and quinquiremes, which represented the pinnacle of Roman naval technology. Triremes, characterized by their 3 rows of oars, were manned by approximately 170 rowers. This configuration allowed for an ideal combination of speed and agility, making them perfect for ambushes and quick attacks. On the other hand, quinquiremes, with their 5 rows of oars, had about 300 rowers, making them heavier and more powerful, capable of inflicting significant damage on enemy vessels in direct confrontations. This need for human force was a reflection of the demands of naval warfare, where the ability to propel ships quickly was essential for success in battle. The hierarchy aboard Roman vessels was well-defined and followed a strict military model. In command of the crews, centurions and triarchs played crucial roles. The triarchs were the commanding officers of each ship and were responsible for the leadership and management of the vessel. They were often chosen from the most experienced and respected Roman citizens, bringing a combination of naval knowledge and leadership ability. The centurions, in turn, were responsible for ensuring that the rowers and soldiers on board followed orders and maintained discipline, an essential task in combat situations. The ship crews were often composed of a combination of Roman citizens, allies, and even prisoners of war. This diversity reflected not only the need for skilled labor, but also Rome's policy of integrating different peoples into its empire. Roman citizens who served as rowers or soldiers were encouraged to enlist in the navy, attracted by promises of rewards and recognition. Allies, who were frequently called upon to support Rome in its campaigns, brought their own naval skills and experiences, enriching the composition of the crews. Additionally, the use of prisoners of war as rowers was not uncommon. Rome often utilized captives to meet the needs of its ships, turning these individuals into a forced labor force. While this could be seen as a desperate measure, it also reflected Rome's ability to adapt to circumstances and take advantage of all available resources. This practice, although effective in terms of numbers, also led to challenges regarding morale and discipline, as many of the prisoners might not have been willing to fight for an empire that had defeated them. Roman ports, such as Ostia, represented the pinnacle of engineering and infrastructure of the time, functioning as nerve centers for the Roman Navy's trade and logistics. Ostia, located at the mouth of the Tiber River, was Rome's main port and played a crucial role in connecting the city with the rest of the Mediterranean. The construction and development of these ports were essential to ensure that the Roman fleet could operate efficiently and safely, allowing the empire to control its trade routes and maintain the flow of essential supplies. The engineering behind Roman ports was impressive and innovative. Roman architects and engineers designed ports that not only met the needs of the fleet but also facilitated trade. One of the main features of these ports was the breakwaters, structures designed to protect ships from waves and storms. The breakwaters were built with large stone blocks, often in a spring-like shape, and extended into the sea, creating a safe harbor for anchored ships. This protection was vital, especially in the unpredictable and stormy Mediterranean Sea, ensuring that ships were not damaged during bad weather. If you'd like to learn more about Roman engineers, I'll leave a link available here on the screen at the end of this video. Just click and check it out. In addition to breakwaters, Roman ports were also equipped with internal canals, allowing for the quick and safe movement of ships. These canals were designed with the appropriate width and depth to accommodate various types of vessels, from smaller fishing boats to large triremes and quinquiremes. The presence of internal canals facilitated transportation logistics, enabling ships to be loaded and unloaded efficiently, minimizing waiting time and maximizing productivity. This meticulous planning ensured that port operations were carried out with the greatest possible efficiency, which was crucial for sustaining Roman commerce. The ports also included additional infrastructure such as warehouses and shipyards. The warehouses were used to store goods such as grain, wine, and other essential products imported and exported through the Mediterranean. These spaces were designed to protect the goods from the elements and ensure they were available when needed. The shipyards, in turn, were places where ships could be repaired and maintained, ensuring that the fleet was always combat-ready. This integrated approach to port infrastructure allowed Rome to maintain firm control over trade and the mobilization of its navy. The importance of Roman ports was not limited to military logistics. They were also vital to the empire's economy. Ostia and other ports served as bustling commercial hubs where merchants from various regions gathered to negotiate and exchange goods. This commercial dynamic not only reinforced Rome's wealth, but also promoted cultural interaction among the diverse peoples who made up the empire. The diversity of goods passing through these ports reflected the vast extent of Roman control and the complexity of its trade routes. While the advanced engineering of Roman ports, such as Ostia, ensured the initial success of the Roman navy by allowing control of trade routes and the protection of ships, this infrastructure began to fall short in the face of growing threats and changes in the geopolitical landscape. The collapse of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD brought with it the loss of control over vital coastal regions and essential trade routes, opening the way for the emergence of new maritime powers that would challenge Roman hegemony, marking the beginning of a significant decline in Rome's naval and commercial influence. From the 3rd century onwards, the empire faced a series of crises, both internal and external, that destabilized its institutions and economy. Among these factors, the once powerful and prominent navy began to disintegrate as Roman control over the Mediterranean became increasingly vulnerable. With the collapse of the empire, the loss of control over important trade routes became evident. Invasions by Germanic peoples, Huns, and other groups attacking Rome's borders destabilized trade and, consequently, the economy. The navy, which had once ensured the protection of maritime routes, became incapable of dealing with these new threats. Roman ships, already struggling to remain operational due to a lack of maintenance and resources, were unable to withstand the growing piracy and competition for trade, resulting in a significant decline in maritime security. As Rome lost its ability to control the seas, merchants and citizens began seeking safer alternatives, directly impacting Roman commerce and the economy. Furthermore, the rise of Italian maritime powers like Venice and Genoa marked a significant shift in the maritime trade landscape. These city-states, which emerged as independent commercial powers, began to compete directly with Roman influence over the Mediterranean. The wealth and naval expertise of Venice and Genoa, which invested in innovative technologies and commercial practices, allowed them to dominate strategic trade routes and become the main commercial hubs of the time. The growth of these maritime powers dealt a significant blow to the Roman navy, already in decline, as these cities began establishing their own trade networks, replacing Rome as the Mediterranean's primary commercial center. The loss of influence over maritime trade had direct repercussions on the Roman economy. With trade routes controlled by new competitors, Rome saw a decrease in the circulation of goods and wealth, leading to an economic crisis that was further aggravated by internal political and social instability. Citizens who had once benefited from vibrant commerce and the wealth it provided began to face resource shortages, which fueled discontent and revolts. The navy, once a symbol of power and control, came to be seen as a relic of a glorious past, unable to adapt to the new realities of a changing world. Thus, the collapse of the Roman navy and the decline of the Western Roman Empire were influenced by a combination of factors, including the loss of control over vital trade routes and the emergence of new maritime powers that eclipsed Rome's former hegemony. These developments not only marked the end of an era, but also left a lasting legacy that shaped the future of maritime and trade relations in the Mediterranean. The disintegration of Roman control over the Mediterranean symbolized the fall of an empire, but the legacy of the Roman navy continued to endure long after, reflected in the naval tactics and organization of subsequent civilizations. Despite its decline, the principles established by the Romans in naval engineering, port construction, and combat tactics influenced how navies were structured in later eras. The use of multi-oared vessels, the implementation of strategies like the corvus, and the emphasis on military hierarchy aboard ships were adopted and adapted by the nations that followed, shaping the future of naval warfare. Additionally, the Roman navy's ability to control the Mediterranean was a crucial factor in the expansion and longevity of the Roman Empire. By ensuring the security of trade routes and protecting maritime borders, the navy not only sustained the Roman economy but also facilitated the spread of Roman culture throughout the Mediterranean. This maritime presence ensured that the empire could maintain vital trade connections and effectively mobilize troops, consolidating its influence in distant regions. The impact of this network of maritime control and the innovations that arose during its existence continue to be a fundamental part of naval history, reflecting the importance of the Roman Navy as one of the pillars of Western civilization. So, what did you think of the impressive trajectory of the Roman Navy? Leave your thoughts in the comments. From its humble beginnings to its transformation into a naval powerhouse, its history is full of innovation and achievements that shaped the world as we know it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating content about the empire that changed the course of civilization. And in the video now appearing on the screen, I'll tell you what Roman engineers and architects built and how they worked. Click and check it out.